Life Beyond Labels is a Quiet Loud Studios production, proudly featured on Sports E Media. Discover more at quietloudstudios.com. Background music created by Yo Crane. Welcome back to the Life Beyond Labels podcast. This is your host, Kelsey O'Connor, and I'm really excited today. We have a guest, Brenda K. Reynolds, who she and I connected, a couple weeks ago, and I already feel like we have known each other for such a long time. She is an international and TEDx speaker, author, coach, consultant, and one of the main things that she talks about, which we'll get into today, is navigating the fog, the transitions of life that can feel like uncertainty and turning that into resilience and engagement and productivity. So I'm very excited. Not only do we connect just kind of on so many different things, but just how we both view transitions and see the world. And so I'm really excited to even just let you in on just our conversations today. So welcome, Brenda, to the podcast.
Hello, Kelsey. Great to be with you again. I always love our conversations.
I know we were just talking about this right before about how great it is to just kind of have, I think the first time we talked, we spoke for like an hour and a half, and it was just, when you meet people and it just flows, and it's really special to have you on. So thank you for making the time.
Isn't the term everyone's using these days like a good hang? Like we're a good hang, like we're good to hang out with. And
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah. Well, I meant to introduce you as well. So the whole premise of Life Beyond Labels is Brenda is an amazing consultant, speaker, author, but obviously I've only met you a few times virtually. I would love to meet you in person soon. But just to give you all an idea, she just has an energy and a presence. Hopefully, if you're watching through video or you can just hear it through her voice, just a genuineness about her and a strength. And I'm really excited for you all to hear some of her story and some of the projects that she has been sharing her thoughts and her work with the world, because it really is inspiring to meet somebody with such a groundedness and a reflection and a depth about them, but also lightheartedness. So I feel like that comes across just upon meeting you, even through the screen. So um, I would love to introduce you and also have you introduce yourself, kind of beyond some of these labels that we have, as amazing as they are. Here at Life Beyond Labels, we talk a lot about attitude and how we treat people and what makes you unique. So that is my first impression of you. But I would also love for you to just give our friends on the other side an idea of who are you? Who is Brenda?
Well, I think I'm your adopted mother. I'm going to put you in my pocket. I have two sons, so I'm looking for a daughter, and I'm putting Kelsey in my pocket for any time I have a bad day. She's just gonna just pump me up. It's funny, Kelsey, beyond labels, because I also feel a little squirmy at those solid labels of, consultant, coach, even though it's what I do, it's what I had lots of time to consider. What's the impact? And I think it's really come down to this phrase I use called helping others master their now what moments. And that now what moment could be a crossroad they're at. It could be a leader who's dealing with a reorganization. It could be an individual who's facing a transition. It's just something disorienting that puts them a little off kilter. And I can use my background, skills, and experience to help at the organization level, the team level, the individual level, and the leader level. And doing lots of personal growth and development work with people these days, too.
That's so fantastic. I would love for you to share a little bit more. Like, this now what moment is something that everybody can relate to. And so for you in your life to be able to apply it to so many different settings in the work that you do, can you share with us a little bit about what that now what moment was for you, and then how you got into this position of helping others through theirs?
I kind of think everybody's life is just a series of now whats. It's at every decision point, it's every turn where we're having to confront a decision. It's a now what. My biggest now what, though, Kelsey, you and I have talked about this, happened in 2008 when it looked like I had a perfect life. I had two beautiful biological children. We had just built and was living in my dream home. I had just finished the final decorating of it. I had beautiful friends. I was involved in my kids' school district in their community service work. I had my consulting practice going on, and everything just felt like this is it. This is life for the rest of my life. Until an unexpected turn, which was fine. I found myself unexpectedly divorcing and about to be a single mom with 2 little boys, a dream home, but my dreams kind of crumbling around me, and a consulting practice, but no guaranteed income or health benefits that drove me to take a job in corporate America again. So I just have this very visceral memory of my perfect life plan blowing up in the biggest now what moment ever in 2008. At the time, the economy was taking a nosedive too.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say 2008, I know for several people as well as was just a very difficult time for that. And so for all of these different pieces to be happening at the same time with you finding yourself unexpectedly divorcing, and then it doesn't just become one problem, now it's multiple and you're trying to navigate them all at one time. What what kind of kept you afloat during that time? What helped you to pivot and get a job at corporate America, and now it's your vision for your life is changing? How are you able to adapt to that change?
Whew. Well, this is going to fit into my TEDx talk a little bit. I'll preview it. But I remember this visceral moment of sitting in my family room with my brother and sister-in-law on either side of me, and I had my face in my hands, and I just remember that moment of thinking, I can't see 2 inches in front of myself. I don't know where life goes from here. And it was as though a big fog had rolled in over my perfect life plan. And I would not have done well if it hadn't been for those people who picked me up and carried me. And in that moment, I realized the only thing I was capable of doing was get to the next hour or the next hour or the next day and string my next right move together bit by bit to come through that fog. But it was just one small decision, one small move at a time.
Well, I first of all, your TED Talk is fantastic. For those that haven't listened, on navigating transition fog, you gave the most amazing analogy of driving through fog and navigating life fog. So, like when you're driving through fog, you had three different instincts, which was to slow down because when we're moving too fast, like we need to slow down when we can't see that far in front of us and there's fog and we don't realize how fast we're going. Number 2 was to put on your low beams because the high beams reflect the fog more intensely back at you, and sometimes it can only illuminate a little bit in front of you, but that's enough, and the 3rd one was to pull over.
Mhm.
And then you talked about applying that to life. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I just loved that analogy. I felt like it painted such a picture for something that is so practical and then really applying those 3 things to our life. How do you know which one to do and when?
It's funny you say that because I've been able to elaborate even more on that analogy for the keynote that I give on navigating transition fog. It's everything from don't travel alone. So when we're in a foggy time, or even when we're driving on a foggy country road or in poor weather conditions, it's so much better when you've got a person in the passenger seat. Someone who can help you navigate, someone who can keep you comfortable, someone who can talk you off the edge when you're gripping the wheel. And so, again, for me, it was having people that really cared about me by my side at all times. Taking the wheel, which is taking the wheel is saying, how do I get very clear and intentional about my next moves? And I had been consulting to a company for 3 years as a consultant who had been trying to hire me, and I kept saying, "No, thanks, I'm good. No, thanks, I'm good." And I got a final phone call from them in 2008 that said, "If you don't come on board, we're gonna fill this role. We've been kind of waiting for you to change your mind. Do you wanna come on board or not?" And it was just the decision I needed to make, even though it probably I knew wasn't going to be the long term solution for me. I was born to be an entrepreneur. I had to trust that little voice inside of me that said, just do it. And I cried every day for 3 months driving to and from that job, which was an hour away from my children. And it produced the most incredible 3 years of experiences that I now carry with me and use all of the time. So, sort of trusting that inner voice in us when we feel like we're going too slowly, like, I should know the answer, I should know what to do, and we can't. It's too foggy. Trust that little voice in you that says, I have three options. I can try to change or influence a situation, or I can try to accept it, even temporarily, or I need to get out of this situation. And usually in that order, we're reminded that we have control. Even in the fog, our hands
Mhm.
are squarely on the wheel, and those are three powerful choices I always get to make.
I I really love that. I feel like even just that premise of, like, what are my choices is something that I try to apply so much to when dealing with conflict or struggle. Because, like, let's even take the example of 2008 being a really difficult time for the economy. Like, that's something that you cannot control as an
Right.
individual. But then you lay out, okay, well, what are my choices within this scenario? So you can't control the economy, but can I control A, B, or C, like how I go about my day in this way and the job that I'm showing up to. And for you, like feeling like things are spiraling so out of control and then trying to see just clear enough to say, okay, but what are my choices in this moment? How do I choose the best one of from whatever my options are? Um, Even when we feel powerless is like one way to get just a little bit over to the next step.
And even when we're not in crisis, Kelsey, I mean to tell you, I live most of my days saying to myself, low beams, low beams. What's the next thing I need to work on? What's the next thing I need to focus on? Where do I want to put all of my attention right now and just forget about everything else? Because you can wake up in the morning and think, oh my gosh, I have so many things to do today. And that's like turning on your high beams. You look at your calendar, you look at your to do list, and it freaks
Yes.
you out. And instead, and I have a habit of having a post it where I put down the two, three, four major things I want to get done that day. Those are my low beams. And when I do that thing, I do it fully. I try to give it my full attention before I move on to the next one. So some of these skill sets and mindsets apply not even when we're in a major crisis, but in helping us just get through any typical day.
I appreciate that too because yeah, I mean, we don't always have to be in crisis to be learning the same things. And sometimes life is teaching us the same things over again. Cuz it's crazy, I'm sure like right you give this great TED talk. I'm sure there's times in your life where you're like I need to apply my own advice today or like you kind of feel yourself slipping. Is that accurate?
Kelsey, you're going to laugh at this one. You will love. I remember when I was going through another hard time and I called my mom and I was pouring my heart out to my mom. And out of my mom's mouth came, Brenda, I think you need to read your own book right now. Like,
I
Mom, you did not just do that. She's like, well, what you write about in your book is stuff you need to practice right now. I'm like, I both was amazed my mom read my book and absorbed it to the point where she could be using it against me.
That is such mom advice. I love that. Honestly, my mom is probably gonna laugh listening to this because she does that to me all the time. Not in the same context, but she'll, like, text me my own speech or, like, something that I wrote, she'll be like, "You need to relook at this." I'm like, "Oh!" Like,
Well, we've already established I love your mom. So hi,
"Okay."
mom.
Aw, hi, mom. Oh my god, that's so funny. I love that. So do you though? Like, do you go back and look at your own
Oh,
writing sometimes?
you know what? I had to do it recently. My first book is called TBD, To Be Determined, Leading with Clarity and Confidence in Uncertain Times. But I haven't read it in a long time. And I had a potential client reach out to me a week or so ago and say, hey, we would like to work with you to convert your content into online training for our members. And so I had to start outlining what would each module look like from the book, which meant I had to reread the book.
Mhm.
And it was kind of a wild experience because I'm like, wait, did I write that really? Like, "Oh my gosh. Oh, boy, I needed to be reminded of that." And, "Oh, that's a good thing for me to be thinking about." So, it was like I hadn't read this book in a very long time, and it was all new to me again.
Yeah, like revisiting something. Oh my gosh, that is so well, also congratulations on that opportunity. That's so fantastic. But yeah, it's so interesting sometimes the wisdom of like our past self, like we need to revisit because
Mm.
nobody ever figures it out and then just applies it all the time. Like it's a constant effort and process of I love what you said in your TED Talk as well. You called fog freaking opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
And I just think that matches really well with exactly what you're talking about of like you're constantly growing and you sometimes have to look back and take your own advice and be reflective enough to like continue to look at how you're growing because sometimes when we come up with this really I don't know, great advice and we feel like something's impacted us and then we want to share that lesson with the world, it can become really easy to get repetitive in that message and then lose like sight of it in our own life sometimes. Like I know that's something that I'm working on very heavily is like how do I continue to apply the words that I try to share with others to myself so I don't lose like the authenticity of it by just recycling it.
Kelsey, you're an example of fog, the freaking opportunity for growth, right? You think back on your life and you think about the medical situation you found yourself in. That was not fun. The fog rolled in over you. Life as you knew it was not the same. And in that moment, you can't imagine anything great's going to come out of it. And it set you up. I mean, you look back on that now and go, whoa, what an opportunity. And look at the growth. And now it's from this place that I'm serving other people. It kind of put my career and my life on a totally different trajectory. But it's not often until we're pretty far down the road and away from that foggy time that we can see the gifts of the fog and how far
Absolutely.
we've come and why they were there for us. But when we're in it, we don't want to hear that. We don't
Yeah,
want them to say,
oh, 100%.
"Oh, this is gonna be great. What an opportunity for growth." That is not what we wanna hear. It's later that that dawns on us and we realize that that red light just turned green for us.
That is such a good point. I think like knowing when to talk about the opportunities for growth and how we're moving forward in it and when to talk about like just having your low beans on and getting to
Mhm,
the next hour, I
mhm,
think is a really like important skill and way to be empathetic for someone because yeah, I mean if I were to that's why I love your TED Talk so much because have related it so much to that point in my life as well of like there were times where I was right this medical situation is happening, I can't control it. I'm like what are my choices because
right,
like I can't control how like what's happening, what happened to my head. Can't control what's happening around me, but like how do I go to sleep well enough to recover? Or how do I eat something good? Or how do I like wake up today and like talk to somebody and like that's my day. Like that's the goal of the day. And like
that's right,
nowhere in there would I have necessarily wanted somebody to be like, this is gonna be like an opportunity for you. And I think I believed that and it was helpful in some cases, but like knowing when to navigate um the low beams versus then you start the longer it kind of goes and the more you continue to grow, then you become a little bit more open to like, how can I make meaning out of this? We don't have to necessarily assign meaning to what happened, but
right.
like even making something beautiful out of it. What are my choices? How do I turn this into something? Um, how do I turn it into opportunity for growth? But I love that.
Right. And it's just a reminder sometimes to us, the more of these we go through and we get through, where we see the gift of the fog and we know it was an opportunity for growth, then the next time we hit a foggy patch, there will be that experience in us, that remembrance in us that says, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but I'm going to find out later. And in the moment, all I can do is be curious to say, huh, I wonder what this is going to result in. Wow, I wonder why all those doors are closing. I wonder why I'm not getting my way right now. And I'm curious as to what this is going to reveal to me down the road. But we then can start to trust it will reveal itself eventually. It's just that when we're in the fog, we can't see the outcome, we can't see the destination, and we can't get the answers. So we have to get comfortable living in the questions. And the question
Yeah.
often is, now what? And so that's that's how it's just something we all of us all of us are practicing all day, every day, our entire lives.
Yeah, well, even your now what moment of because your now what moment that you share in the TED Talk is about this moment that you had in 2008. But then when we first met, you were also explaining to me kinda how the TED Talk came about because your children were going to college
Mhm.
and you found yourself in another now what moment. So how relevant that you were talking about a past moment, but it was applying to right then as well, and that inspired you to give the TED Talk. Can you provide us with a little more detail about, like, that moment? Because I just really love, how you share it.
Yeah, I wasn't in crisis, but I thought I might be because my second love of my life, my son, was about to leave my home in a year. And I thought, oh my gosh, what an empty nest I'm going to have and how sad I might be. And gosh, this is going to be such a joyful time in his life. I don't want to rob from that. I don't want to be this pathetic, sad mom who's trying to pretend she's happy he's leaving home. So now what? I have a year to figure out what I'm going to do with this new thing that's about to happen. And in that moment, I ask myself, what are some of the dreams I've yet to realize that I haven't had the time or the energy or the focus to put into them? And that's when I realized way back in second grade, I had promised my second grade teacher, Mrs. Wolf, that I was going to be a novelist one day. And all the other kids were going to be nurses, basketball players, and teachers. Out of my second grade mouth, it is a clear memory. I said, I'm going to be a novelist. And so for my entire life, this burden hung over me that I had not lived up to it. And in that moment, I thought, I haven't written a book yet. And I also began to think, wow, what a ride. I've been through all of these things. And I wish people had more access to the information and knowledge I had from my master's program, my background, and my training. And then I thought, well, I can write a book about that that can help people navigate their own uncertain times. And so by the time my son left for college, he was excited about his future. I was excited about mine. And this was not by design, it just started happening. I wrote the book and published it. I got invited to do the TEDx talk, and I created a product. None of that. I don't recommend doing all three of those at the same time, by the way. But it was my way of being like, I'm graduating into a new chapter of my life, and I can use a positive now what to say, now what do I want to do? Now what do I want to make possible? Now, how do I want to serve the world?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. I just think that's so fantastic. And yeah, just like a positive now what. I guess I never thought of the distinction between, yeah, your now what moments when you're facing a crisis or you're in a transition, but then also you even intro your TED Talk this way, like positive transitions and
Mhm.
now what's changing a job, getting promoted, um,
A new
and being able to
baby.
apply those things. Yeah, applying those things to your life that can come with a fog, even though it's an exciting fog, like something that you still have to navigate. And what a fantastic way. Like that's a hard time I know for parents, like when their children go off to college and you've invested so much time and attention and care and obviously like can't fully know what that's like, but I can like sympathize and um just understanding, that ability for you to take that moment. And also I'm sure it was so inspired for your own kids to see like, oh my gosh, my mom is working towards something and is inspired about something and is passionate about this work. And um I'm sure it impacted the people around you to see you start to gift your writing and books to the world. Also, did your teacher ever find out that you wrote a book? Did you ever send it to her?
Mrs. Wolf is long gone. I mean,
Oh, I'm
I in second
sorry.
grade, I thought she was 80. She was probably 35. You know what I mean? But I thought she was old then. But she truly, she's long gone. But I mention her in the book, and I know she knows I've written it. And yes, my boys are really good. I think about reflecting back to me what they've learned from watching me navigate some challenging times, and I really appreciate that. I kind of distinguish, and this is the way I end my TEDx talk. So we're sorry, spoiler alert for anyone who's going to watch the TEDx talk, but it's that I believe that behind every now what is a why not ready to be unleashed. So that's the positive. is a now what pauses us, it slows us down, and it creates space for us to think about options, to get creative, to consider possibilities, and that may create a really like, why not? Why not make this big change? Why not make this decision? Why not go this way? And that can be exhilarating when you look back on it and go, "Oh, that's why the now what showed up, so that I could live this why not."
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you sent me we'll transition to this in a moment. You sent me your new transformational journal. It's not necessarily a book, but a journal. And you had a little message on there because I just graduated with like a why not at the bottom, which was really sweet. And even just as kind of like a young professional, like going into the world, and I really needed that at this exact time. To ask myself why not, because some of those pressures can feel like a lot, and a lot of people are kind of telling you what to do after you graduate, or kind of where to go, and it can be all consuming. And so for you to kind of send that and be a reminder of people for like, why not you, why not this
Mhm.
opportunity. Even I was just talking with my twin, who when he was applying for jobs post grad was talking about this like why not me mentality. And it's just a great way to like be confident in yourself, like you said, trust your inner voice and bet on yourself, believe in yourself as you navigate the fog and your next transitions of life.
And sometimes we need to borrow that confidence from somebody when we don't have it. That's what I say we borrow.
Yeah.
You know, we know we've got those people who say whatever you need to hear in that moment to keep you going. And then, then they give it back to you when you're ready to carry your own confidence. But in the meantime, you just need a few people reminding you of who you are. Because I think, too, I wrote about this in a recent newsletter that the world, especially for graduates, wants to say, we say to young people, "Oh my goodness, these years, college and right beyond college are the happiest times in your life. They're the best times in your life." And in many ways they are, but they're really hard. And I remember my son saying, "Mom, I don't think I'm as happy as I should be," when he went to college, because everyone has told him these are the happiest stages of your life. And as a freshman, everything about life changes. You've left your
Hmm.
family, your home, your security, the schedule the people you're managing money, a strange roommate, like everything about your life has changed. You're not going to sail into that like woohoo happy from the first day, no matter how outgoing and extroverted you are. It's a big transition. And so I think we have to be careful. We do it again when we have children and a new mom, and we say, "Oh my gosh, isn't this a joy? How exciting, what a blessing." I'll be honest, when I visit a new mom and I give her a few weeks to settle in to the best of her ability, the first time I see her, I say, "Let's be honest, parts of this really suck, don't they?" And she usually bursts into tears because no one is allowing her to say, "This is difficult. I love my
Yeah.
baby, and this is difficult." And there are so many times in life where it is a challenge. And we need to keep it real for each other. And we need to borrow confidence from people when we're in that space that we aren't sure we can navigate until we can find the confidence genuinely in ourselves.
Absolutely. I love the way that you put that. Thank you for sharing that, especially, yeah, in those times that can be balanced with both joy and stress. So even just finding like even just calling it out and allowing it to be okay for people to say like, "Oh my gosh, this must be kind of hard. Like I'm sure you love your child, but this must be really difficult." For the people to feel seen and for you to be willing to kind of give that confidence, but then also that like safety, like giving people safety to talk about how they feel about something that's not maybe 100% joy. Like,
Mhm.
I just love the way that you put that, so thank you for sharing that. I think it kinda goes along with your first acronym of your 5 frogs, which I wanna get into a little bit. You wrote this transformational journal, which, by the way, I also recommend because she sent it to me and I already love it. I'm a huge journaler, and in the beginning, there's a message from you, and then it talks about the 5 frogs, and then there's kinda some guided prompts. But can you explain to us what 5 frogs means and is. I think that first F is freak out, which is kind of what we're talking about when you have a transition, you start freaking out. But can you explain to us a little bit more about the premise and what kind of inspired you to create this journal?
Yeah, it's the story is in the journal as to how the title came about. It's a long story, so I won't drag everyone through it. But over time, I was exposed to this phrase of five frogs, and then I got aware that frogs could be an acronym. And I started reflecting on my own now what moments I had been through. And what came through for me was, oh, wait a minute. Frogs is an acronym for all the places and spaces we move through on the heels of a change or a disorienting event. And so the F stage is that feeling stage, that freak out, the frustration where things feel like they're falling apart, where you've hit some fork in the road. Because the disorienting event can be a positive event or it can be what we think could be a negative event. And so that's the raw emotion of it. And then in the R stage, we are, and by the way, these aren't nice, neat, linear stages we move through. We kind of leap back and forth and in and out of them, much like a frog over time. But in the R stage, we're having to say it's the stage of responsibility and reflection. So things like self responsibility, like what's my part in having gotten here? How did I get here? And we can learn about ourselves. It's also a stage where we might be taking on added and new responsibilities. And it's the perfect space to reflect and get quiet and just even look at what's going on, what are my options, and be fully in it. The O, and I think we spend a fair amount of time in the F and the R. Those are our more emotional states. And then with the O stage, over time, we overcome obstacles. We don't really have a choice. And so this is a place where we overcome obstacles, big and small. They may be actions we need to take, they may be mindsets we need to shift. Um, and then G, I think I'm growing because from this thing, you are going to grow, but you want to track that growth. And then the S stage is the stage of crowning your sovereign self. There is no prince or princess with the crown. It's about you crowning a stronger, royal, expanded version of yourself. You're not who you were before this thing happened to you. And from that space, we share our story, which you're an example of, Kelsey, and we serve others, right? So that's why we go through these disorienting events, is so that we can get to a place of using that to show up in the world and help other people and serve through it. And it's only through going through those five frog stages again and again and again that we build resilience. That's really where it comes from.
First of all, it is just so creative. And also, I think when we're able to like put words and definitions to something, it's not about like fitting into the box of it, but just like to explain our experiences and to have almost like a map and a relatability. And the way that you put it, I just love it. And even just the idea of like leaping back and forth, like it's not a linear progression of stages that we navigate transition. It truly is these just different areas we find ourselves in, putting words to it and putting like stages to it. It's so creative and really inspiring. So for you, that last moment of crowning your sovereign self, was there a moment for you that you felt like you finally did that?
I don't think finally, but I do know it's really interesting. At this stage in my career, Kelsey, more and more people are wanting me to just show up and tell my story, whether stories, whether it's on a podcast or during a keynote or in coaching and consulting somebody. It's like, could we tap your wisdom? Could we tap your experience? And I don't say that out of a place of ego, but people sometimes know bits and pieces of my stories. And because of that, they can relate, they can connect to it. And so I find myself serving and sharing, especially because I've lived a lot of life at this point. It's the sharing and the serving that I think is the space that I'm in at this stage of my life, whether it's through writing or presenting. or coaching people. Right before this podcast, I was on a spontaneous call with someone I was coaching, and she's clearly in the F stage of a change, something that just hit her. And so to be able to walk her through the stages to say you're exactly where you need to be and you can't expect yourself to be anywhere else. You're in the F stage. Don't make a major life decision from this stage. You aren't
Mhm.
grounded. Let's talk in 3 weeks. Some of that may have passed. So just to be able to put a framework on it, like you said, Kelsey, I hope helps people by normalizing it and having people not feel so alone. It's just life.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Well, and you're absolutely helping people with your speaking and your coaching and your personability and the work that you're putting out. We were just talking about before this how there's in the Five Frogs, you talk about something that somebody said that impacted you and they didn't even remember it. And then on this coaching call, you had said something years ago that this client or friend remembered and you didn't even think about it. And so how many people you must be impacting without even it doesn't cross your mind. You like forget what you said and yet it really impacts other people. So just the power of our words and the power that we have over helping people think about their transitions and experiences when they're going through them. Like I know for my life when I was dealing with my transition, it was monumental for me. The people around me were in a regular stage of life, quote unquote regular, or not experiencing something. So they're probably not thinking about what they said to me in that moment. And for me, I was like lifelining to the
Right.
things that people were helping me with. And vice versa. Now I'm in a great stage of life. I'm kind of on a breeze. But when I see somebody who is in a tough, tough spot, knowing that like what you say might carry with them, might help them through the next few weeks, might change the trajectory of what they decide to do with it. Like you just have no idea. So just the fact that you are getting on stages and talking with people one on one and touching so many lives through sharing your own story, it's really inspiring and really remarkable how vulnerable you are in sharing them with a vulnerability and a strength at the same time. So I just really admire everything that you're doing. And I feel like where you are is kind of where I just want to be in that stage of helping people and impacting them the way that you are. So even just you sharing has inspired me in a lot of ways. I just wanted to say that.
You've got a head start. You've got a
Well,
head
thank
start. You're
you.
already doing it, and I think for anyone listening, this is not just about people who have audiences and listeners and stages. We're all doing this. We could probably all look back on our lives, no matter where we are in life, and think about those 5 things that somebody said to us that stuck or made a difference or changed the trajectory of our life. I remember walking with a friend of mine when I was in my 2008 Now What moment. And she must have given me 2 hours a day of her time just to listen to me and walk with me and help me process what was going on. And I can come up with 2 or 3 statements that she would say to me routinely that I'd still float through my head at times. One of the things she said to me is just because somebody says something doesn't make it true. And it's like, oh, yeah, that I needed to be reminded of that.
Yeah,
And, she had a few other wise things she would say to me, and I carry them with me to this day, and each and every one of us have that impact on other people. So, I think the key for us all is to be very intentional about our words and to be very intentional about our actions. Because even when we don't think they have impact, they have incredible impact.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Is there you've spoken to so many people, and then I love, even just you talking about some of these personal connections that have stuck with you. I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this question. Like, has there ever been a time where maybe somebody that heard your talk or talked to you afterwards came up and said something that really impacted you? Like, is there a favorite moment that you've spoken or something that really touched you or stood out to you kind of across this whole journey that you've now had of connecting with so many people?
I'll tell you 2. One's super brief, but it kind of what there's a story behind the TEDx story because there was even drama that played out before I got on stage to do my TEDx. And the drama was such that by the time I was in the makeup chair, I couldn't remember one word of my talk. So I was freaking out. and I had to gather myself before I did the talk. So when I did the talk, I will tell you, I don't think it's my best talk ever. I was coming into that kind of rattled and unsettled and uncertain myself. So when you do a talk on navigating fog, the universe gives you a little fog to manage. And so I got on stage and did that talk. And when I got off stage, the young woman who was taking my microphone off of me was crying. And she hugged me. And I'll be honest, the first thing I thought was, wow, it must have been really bad. She feels sorry for me. And then she whispered in my ear, you have no idea how much I needed to hear this message today. And in my moment of self doubt and her moment of vulnerability and sharing, I realized I didn't care what happened to my talk after that. That if it had that impact on one person, that's what its meaning was. So that was from, 2017. If we fast forward to more recently, I was doing a talk in an organization that for the first time was having an event on International Women's Day and honoring the women. And the women were all walks of life. And they were really grateful to be in the room. So we had everyone from the CEO to people who worked on a shop floor, if you will. And I noticed this one woman who came in somewhat late to the presentation and sat in the back of the room. She came up to me afterwards and she was just sobbing and smiling at the same time. And she said, here's what I want to share with you. I have been inconsolable for the past day because this is the anniversary of my father's passing. And I always have a rough time. And I woke up this morning and I didn't think I could come to work, but I made myself get out of bed. I made myself come to work, but I sat in my cubicle and I cried. And then I went to the bathroom and cried. And then I realized I needed to come to this talk, but I almost skipped it because I wasn't up for it. And every single thing you said today felt like my father was talking directly to me. And the funny thing is, she looked kind of happy. So I was trying to figure out what had happened. And she said, I realized that the words and the messages shifted me to the point where I'm in a happy place and I want to honor my dad. So I'm going home and I'm picking up the ingredients to make his very favorite meal. And I'm going to have, quote, dinner with my dad tonight and know that he orchestrated it for me to be here with you today. It was it was just unreal to see the transformation.
Wow. That's so moving. How do you even, like, process sometimes with, like, people you know what I mean? Like, you share, and then for it to hit people so deeply. Like, I just think those that's so special
Well,
and
I cry with
moving
them.
and yeah.
I cry with
Do
them,
you?
Kelsey.
Do
Before we
you?
got on the podcast, you saw me as I was getting on the podcast where I was still emotional from talking with somebody who was having some breakthrough moments. And I'm an emotional person, so I think I'm an empath. And it doesn't always feel like it's me doing it. It's a higher purpose.
Mhm.
It's just happening through me.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's such a beautiful story and just very, very moving. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, I guess to kinda transition us a little bit into maybe somebody that has impacted your life. I usually like to end the podcast with just an opportunity for you to share somebody else that has impacted your life in a positive way and describing them beyond their labels or just how they have impacted you, touched your life, etc. So I would love to know who that person is for you and how you would describe them.
I'm going to go with my paternal grandmother who lived to be almost 98 years old. But I was in her life. She was in my life since I was born. And she was all of maybe 4 feet 11. And she took care of and buried two husbands to colon cancer in the course of her life and never let it get the best of her. She is a woman who lived life to the fullest. So even when she was not married, she was going to Egypt to ride camels, and she was joining the local dart club, and she was in a dance class. And I have this memory of her on a farm when we were younger. She lived on a farm and her husband had passed, so we had to go help her a lot. And my cousins and I were there to find the new litter of kittens that had just been born in the barn when the cows got loose. So I have this picture, Kelsey, of my little grandmother standing on the hill or just yelling at these cows and whipping them into shape and
Oh my
getting
god.
them back in the barn. I mean, and she meant business. So she was powerful and sassy, but at age 98 when she passed, I don't think I know anyone who had a negative word to say about her because she was equally sweet as she was strong. And so she lives in me. I've got aspects of her alive and well in me. I think of her all the time. And she was just always an inspiration that life didn't always go the way she had planned it, but she just kept living it to its fullest and being really intentional with her actions and her words and how she showed up. And so for me, she has a special place in my heart.
What was her name?
Lena.
Lena. Wow, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Oh my gosh. She sounds like a very special person, and having somebody that she sounds like fiery and means business, but also that she's just clearly sounds like she touched the people around here, and I'm sure that it has just come through you the way that it sounds like you embody a lot of that as well. So that is just beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I'm just so touched by so much of what you shared in your story, and the way that you describe people and your connections with them, and just so much about all that you're sharing with the world through your own story, the stories of others. So thank you so much for making the time to come on. Is there anything else you want to leave us with, and how can people find you? Let them know, where can they find Five Frogs? Where can they find TBD? Just let
Mm.
them know where they can find more of Brenda Reynolds, because I'm sure they will want
Well, it's this place called Brenda K. Reynolds.
to.
Is the letter K, Brenda K.
One
Reynolds.
stop shop.
Yeah, Reynolds. That's where you can find out about my services, my products. You can also go straight to Amazon. And just as a tip, they recently, I think, had the journal discounted. So you might want to take advantage of that. I have no control over that, but I think they discounted it, which is a good thing. Um, and then the first book, TBD, is also there. You can just do a Google search to find my TEDx or go to my website to find my TEDx. And if anyone really just wants to reach out and say, hey, through an email, I read all of my own email, I will respond. It's Brenda@BrendaKReynolds.com.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for listening to Life Beyond Labels. Brenda, it was a pleasure. I know we will keep
The joy
connecting.
is mine. Thank you. Thank you. I love our conversations, and it's cool that we get, just let people listen in today.
I know. I honestly, I feel like I have so much to talk to you about that I'm probably going to process everything that you said as well. And I was going to wait actually till after we stopped recording, but you were literally just talking about like the divine timing. We were talking about it on this podcast. You were talking about like the divine timing of this coaching client that you talked to today. And it is so insane to me that you brought up your paternal grandmother, because it was my paternal grandmother's birthday a few weeks ago, who passed about 2 years ago. And
Wow.
she has very similar, like, just was fiery and strong and involved, and also like one of the closest people to me, like truly
Mhm.
my North Star for everything that I do. And so I'm just like very,
Mhm.
very touched by you sharing that. And I just love our conversation. So um
Let me just leave you with this one, Kelsey. Mic drop. The week before my TED Talk, guess where I was? I was on my grandmother's deathbed for the 5 days leading up to my TEDx talk as she passed and transitioned. And it was a beautiful honor to be with her. And so I'd like to think our grandmothers are up there watching us today and having a blast.
Yes, I I love that. I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're gonna they're listening to the episode for sure.
They're like, "Look at our girls."
I know. They're friends up there. So beautiful. I will let our listeners go, but thank you all so much for listening. Join us again on Life Beyond Labels, and Brenda, thank you so much.